For this second section on quadratics, we're going to be looking at solving quadratic equations. There's three main ways of solving quadratic equations. The first is factorising. So for example 1, we need to find where this graph crosses the x-axis. The x-axis is where y equals 0, so we set the right hand side equal to 0, and we're going to try and solve this equation. The first thing we notice is all the coefficients are even, so we can divide through by 2, which makes factorising a lot easier. We now need to think of two numbers that multiply to -6 but add to give +1. So these are +3 and -2. So when we factorise, we get x plus 3 and x minus 2. These tell us that either x minus 2 is 0 or x plus 3 is 0. So the solutions are x is 2 or x is minus 3. The graph crosses at 2, 0 or minus 3, 0. The second type of solution comes from completing the square. So example 2, we need to solve this quadratic by first completing the square. If we write as bracket squared with an x at the front, we now take this number in front of the x and half it to give -2. We think what this bracket is when it's multiplied out. It would give us x squared, which we want. It would give us -4x, which we want. It would also give us a +4, which we don't want. So we need to take away -4, and then we need to remember there's a -2 from the line above. If we collect the numbers together, take 6 onto the right hand side, we can then square root. Remember, we're going to take plus or minus square root, add 2 to both sides, and we get the answer x can be 2 plus root 6 or x can be 2 minus root 6. The third way is using the quadratic formula. So we need to find the roots of this quadratic. If we first write down the values of a, b and c, a is the number in front of the x squared, b is the number in front of the x, and c is the number itself including the sign. We can then substitute these values into the formula. Then we can simplify, and so the roots are -2 plus root 22 and -2 minus root 22. We can also look at a quadratic equation to find out if it has roots. The first thing we do is define an expression called the discriminant. This is b squared minus 4ac. This is like the part inside the quadratic formula that's inside the root. If this discriminant takes a positive value, then the quadratic will have two real distinct roots, roots that have different values. If the discriminant is 0, the quadratic will have a single answer, one repeated root. But if it's negative, there are no real numbers that satisfy this, and there are no real roots, no real solutions. Here is a typical exam question for you to try. Press pause, and once you've finished doing it, press play again to see the answers. Okay, part A first. We write the equation out. We can see from this A is 1, B is m plus 2, and C is 4m minus 8. Now we know that this quadratic has equal roots, so this means that the discriminant has to be equal to 0. So if we substitute the values for A, B and C into this, we get a quadratic in m. We just need to simplify this expression. If we multiply out brackets and collect the terms, we get the required expression. For part B, we need to solve this quadratic. We're going to factor this. We need two numbers that multiply to 32 but add to minus 12. So we have minus 4 and minus 8. So this minus 4 is 0 or minus 8 is 0. So m can take the value 4 or m can take the value 8. I'm going to leave you with the key points from this section.